Yeah, definitely.
It's being easy being you. Man, I can you know, I got so many where I can just start it, because it's like, you know, when you've been around somebody, you know, it's like where did we start? But DC, Washington DC, coming up in DC, how was it? I know you the 80s era too.
Yeah, yeah.
How was DC coming up in DC in the 80s?
Actually, man, to categorize it, that probably, as my childhood years, I probably would say that probably was the best time of my life, man. You know, because I didn't have those worries of bills coming up, you know, as a kid.
Right.
Everyone got along, you know, the hustlers really looked out for the younger generation. So, you know, I come up in an era what they would call the golden era, where guys in the street really gave a fuck. They had morals and principles and things of that nature. So I was blessed to come up in that era, man.
In that era.
And Washington, D.C. is a rough town. So, you know, if you ever been here or you really don't know much about it, I represent the pimp side of it, but I come from a whole nother side before this. You know, we celebrate 20 years of the game, 20 plus years of the game in me, but I'm 47 years old, about to be 48. So it's a whole nother 20 years, a whole nother chapter before that you probably don't even know about.
Right.
That's very interesting. So
right.
Growing up here in DC, man, is you know, it was wonderful for me, because it taught me, it prepared me for you guys. Right. It prepared me, it made me the man that I am to be prepared and be ready for the world. So
that's right. That's right. Speaking of the life before the life, how was it? Like I know a lot of us, like with me, I dealt in gangs and sold a little drugs, and you know, in the streets. You know, being in DC.
Basically the same here. You know, DC, we don't have gangs here. You know what I'm saying? You know, the youngest probably claim something now. You know what that they're doing, but generally we don't have gangs here. If you're really from DC, you know, it's just like we like to call it, we on man time. What you do with 50 niggas, you gonna better have to do by yourself. So, you know, you probably will have more gangsters, like as an individual, than a group of guys coming together as a gang. Right. Let me say, and as far as coming up, I come up, you know, we seen drug dealers and gangsters, bank robbers. You know, we had our pimps, but it was very few that was popular back in that day. You know what I'm saying? But that I was aware of in the 80s anyway. Right. You know, I come up, you know, under the Cornell Joneses and the Tony Lewises and you know, those were kingpins, you know, so to speak, back then. You know, that are returning citizens now, what Cornell is, and we're fighting for Tony Lewis. He's been locked up 30 years, man, for a nonviolent offense. So, you know how that go.
Right. They're going to find a way to jam you. Rayford Edmond is from that area, right?
Who? Rayford? Yeah. He's from D.C.
And that's that 80s area too, right?
Yeah, that's the 80s era as well, man.
Yeah. Did you, like we have, like Chicago got their drug dealers, like we had our biggest ones like High Neef and Carmen Tate and being in Chicago, you had a lot of we had a lot of times where we got to brush shoulders with them and just be around them. Is that did you ever have that type of opportunity being in the DC area?
Definitely, man. I come up off of North Capitol, P Street, Hanover corridor. So if you Google Hanover Place, that's probably like one of the first $1 million blocks in Washington, D.C. I grew up right there. So those guys I named, you know, I had the opportunity to watch these guys firsthand, and they knew me by name and you know, like I said, helped groom the character. You know, back then, you know, they're much older than me, so I've never, you know, back then they wouldn't let guys my age get involved. The most we could do probably was go to the store. Right. And if you know, like that, you couldn't be outside around there during school hours. You know what I'm saying? If it was before 3 o'clock, you couldn't have your ass around there. So like again, it goes back to morals and principles. And then when they just couldn't keep you away from the block and you just kept coming back, okay, you're gonna watch for the police. You never got a pack in your hand. It was always a process.
That's
you know what I'm saying? It's just like in the game. Just like a lot of pimps. They don't have the game. So how you gonna just put a bitch in the game and don't teach her the rules and regulations? That's just like a basketball game. You can't put nobody in the game and you don't tell them what's a double dribble, a foul, or out of bounds. And a lot of people just jump in and they crash. They didn't allow us to do that around here back then.
That's, you know, and it's crazy. I was just talking about this on another live with an artist I was interviewing out of Chicago, and I was telling them, I remember back in the 80s and in the early 90s, man, you wasn't in school. Man, you disrespect an adult.
Yeah. Man, grandma walking down the street, you still got your pants hanging down, you shooting dice, you ain't grabbing her bags.
None of that.
We don't come from that. Like, I don't condone shit like that.
None of that.
You know what I'm saying? I don't respect young niggas who don't have respect for elders. Like, I didn't come up like that, bro. You know what I'm saying? So, and my mother didn't play that.
Right.
So, you know.
It would have been hard to make it up the chains of the streets being disrespectful to adults or being a wild out of pocket. And, you know, you know, people have this image of the streets, but like you say, in the 80s when we came up, you didn't make it being wild and unruly, disrespectful. The OGs didn't even like that. I mean, you was considered a sucker or a lame. You know,
or they didn't even want your ass around. Good. When I had guys like that, and they seen the potential in me, because, like, for instance, on Hanover, you might go. It might be so many people around there, and dudes jamming. They can't leave and go to the store. You might get $100 bill. Hey, I need you to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was called Geno's back then, and get XYZ. Right. And you bring the change back. Some guys got that 100 and didn't come back. I always went and bought the change back.
Right.
That's you know, that was my character as a kid. So when I would in turn bring my buddies around to try to get on to go to the store, and the older guys knew that these little guys ain't had the potential I had, I heard, don't bring them back. You come back by yourself tomorrow. Don't bring them with you. Come back by yourself. That's how I learned.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny to hear you talk, because those are the same things me and Prez would hear. Hey, man, I got a bunch of friends we grew up with. You know, Bishop and God, man, leave them over there, man.
Yeah.
Don't bring them around here.
But man, look. Hey, Governor, not to cut you off, you was turned. Your coattail was pulled by a man that gave Bishop the game. So, like, a lot of people don't know that. You know what I'm saying? You know, God was one of a kind, man. You know, so it is what it is. So certain things, when you are blessed to be around some certified OGs, man, you know, they're going to instill morals and principles.
They're going to steal it in you, and they're not going to let you go astray.
Exactly.
You end up like everybody else in the penitentiary or you know, they going to put that protection around you. R.I.P. to God, man. You know, that's a cold one. Now, DC, we're going to forward it to the 90s. Now, for y'all to know, when I first seen JuJu, met JuJu, when I say a certified boss, and I didn't even know you was only 2-3 years older than me, number one. All right, I'm taking y'all back 25 years. We talking about a young, maybe 20, 21 or something like that.
Yeah, about 25. I had my first ball when I was 27. So yeah.
So you about
so I met you years before that. So I was like 23.
23.
Yeah, something like that.
Mink coat, big jewels, heavy, well respected. Came from DC, coming from DC, Washington DC, and coming to Chicago. How did you make that connect? How did you do that?
Good game. My partner, good game, man. You know, that's how I met Bishop. You know, good game. Midwest pulled my coattail to the game. Me and Good Game met him many years ago in Vegas, and it's a funny story because in my game I really outgrew Washington, so I took it on the road. And back then, you know, in order to rub elbows, you had to be with it where everybody was going to be, and Vegas was the playground during those days when the Mike Tyson fights and shit like that.
Right.
So I took my talents on the road, you know, and I set out to meet someone,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and when I got there, a gentleman complimented me, which was something I wasn't used to coming from DC. Coming from DC, if you don't know a motherfucker, you don't speak to him. So let alone getting a compliment, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you look at it, we a motherfucker look at you like, man, what's up? You like, nigga, what's up? That's the energy around here, which is not good, to be honest. But that was my energy leaving Washington until I got polished up.
Right.